This is the Troutbitten podcast.
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten?
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten?
Yeah, Troutbitten.
Troutbitten.
It's about trout.
Wild trout. This is Troutbitten.
This is the Troutbitten podcast. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Dominic Swentowski. I'm the owner of Troutbitten and the author of troutbitten.com. All right, tonight's episode is one that we've been talking about for a while now. This one is titled, That's Not Fly Fishing. Because how many times have you heard this at the bar or seen someone write it on social media? When the way you are fishing isn't up to someone's standards, when it doesn't align with their own preferences, it seems that this frequent argument comes out easily. That's not fly fishing. Of course, there is no single definition for what fly fishing is. Like so many great pursuits, our sport is wide open, with variations that blend together different systems, merging tactics into a hybrid mix of techniques that simply work to catch trout. The fly rod is a tool. Flies are the bait. And how anglers choose to use them is where personal creativity comes in. And I think it's that inventiveness and room for imagination that makes fly fishing so attractive to us in the first place. Like, how can we do things better? How can we use these tools to catch more trout? Those are our questions, and we like to find the answers. So I do find that fly anglers in general are more open-minded than ever. Rigs, flies, and tactics that would never make it out into the open just a couple decades ago are now mainstream tactics that large parts of the industry are built upon. Take these two examples. First, the now frequent use of large articulated streamers, sometimes with molded heads or weighted eyes. These are often fished on sinking lines or long leader systems. Much of this would be frowned upon when I started out. A second example is the popularity of monorigs, tight line, and Euro-nymphing tactics. Fly fishing magazines literally rejected articles about such subjects 25 years ago. And now the same editors, the same magazines embrace the tactics completely. So a lot has changed, and I think it's for the better. Because elitism sucks. It's a joke. And choosing to fish a certain way because you think you're doing it better than other people is a lousy way to live. That's how I think about it. This is fishing. It's all just fishing. Now, we've addressed much of this in previous podcasts, but I think most of my friends here would agree that we fly fish rivers because it puts trout in the net. Yeah, let's understand what trout eat. They don't chase down bait fish nearly as much as they sit in one lane and pick off small bugs. Both on top and underneath the water, trout are drift feeders. They eat small food forms, usually, of an inch or much smaller even, just small things that are drifting along with the current. That's what they eat, mostly. Now, spin fishing gear simply cannot present these small food forms, these nymphs, wets, and dry flies, with as much finesse as a fly rod, really not even close. So we come to fly fishing then because it's the best tool for the job. Also, we fly fish simply because we enjoy it. And we often choose to stay with the fly rod for other species or in other scenarios when it actually isn't the best tool for the job, but we just like fishing the fly rod. Now, in 2017, I wrote an article on Troutbitten titled, Where the Lines Are Drawn. It remains one of the most popular, most circulated articles from the Troutbitten website. So I know that many anglers are curious about this topic, which is essentially what we're here to talk about tonight. But this discussion, this episode, is not just for talking through what fly fishing might be and where each of us might draw our own lines. Instead, we'd like to acknowledge really the absurdity of the lines themselves, the decisions we make about what is fly fishing and maybe what we think it isn't. How can someone be so adamantly against tight line tactics, for example, but gladly fish a bobber and split shot all day? This makes no sense. How can you be all in on tungsten beads, but claim that adding split shot makes it not fly fishing? Again, it makes no sense. Likewise, how can you be against a ball jig on a streamer, but have a full box of dumbbell eyes? Is that okay? It's okay because Bob Clouser told everyone it's okay? Is that why? These absurdities and these questions are what we're here to talk about tonight. There's a lot to this one, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of conversation with the guys here. So we're skipping listener questions for this episode. Let me quickly introduce the Troutbitten guys by asking each of them this question. Guys, what's your favorite way to fish that isn't fly fishing? Mine is Rapalas on a spinning rod chasing down smallmouth in a river. I said Rapala. I'm sorry, Trevor.
Rapala.
Rapala. You want to start, dude? What's your favorite way?
I do want to
besides,
start because
yeah.
I feel like you stole my favorite way. I grew up, literally the back border to my yard growing up was the Allegheny River, up near Warren, Pennsylvania. And so as a kid, I had open access to the Allegheny River every single day. And I fished almost every day for, I don't know, the first 10 years that I could walk to the river. And Rapalas for smallmouth and the occasional walleye and even occasional small muskie was a lot of fun. But I would also say that meps and rooster tails were easy and fun change outs in my tactics. But really between Rapalas, meps, and rooster tails, that was kind of the three lures that I kept and fished. I really didn't stray.
So if you do go back to the spinning rod right now, is that your favorite way to do it? Or are you just saying that's the way you used to do it? I've
got a little plastic box on a lanyard that anytime I'm going to go spin fishing, I'll just take it, and it's filled with different color rooster tails, meps, and Rapalas.
That's nice.
So, nice.
That's all I fish with.
I grew up fishing strung minnows, and I've gone back to it. I've told you guys, I went that one summer. I did it quite a bit again.
Yep.
But I don't enjoy it as much as fishing the Rapalas and the inline spinners. Same thing. When we go to the salt, I don't fly fish. Austin, you know that. We talked about that. Austin and I fished together last summer, and he stayed with the fly rod, which was cool. And but I fish a lot of bucktails and what are they, like Berkeley gulp minnows and stuff like that. I'm fishing for fluke from the right from the surf. I don't know. I feel like it's just a lot of fun. I like mixing it up. What about you, Austin? What's your favorite way besides a fly rod? You ever touch anything besides a fly rod? These days, I mean? These days.
These days, not lately, but what I used to love doing was going out on a lake in a canoe and paddling around and throwing like small topwater baits, little plugs or little frogs, and just ripping across and popping along lily pads and catching smallmouth and panfish, whatever.
Nice.
I love doing that. I still would today. I just haven't done it.
When's the last time you think? You didn't fly fish?
Well, the last time I didn't fly fish was when you and I were at the beach last summer.
Oh, yeah.
And you handed me a rod for a few casts.
I said, you can catch something, kid.
Yeah. I felt a take on the bottom. I'm sure of it.
Sure. What about you, Matt Grobe, out in Montana? What's your favorite way when you're not fly fishing?
Without sounding elitist, not fishing.
Get out.
I just wouldn't fish. Yeah, no. I would embark in one of my other hobbies. I have a ton of other hobbies, whether that's mountain biking or hiking or skiing. I would choose not to fish at the moment. Now I can go back into time and did all the same things you guys did with minis and, Rapalas and all that fun stuff. So I've fished that. I have nothing against those tactics. Looking at your question, right? Fishing now, I would just choose not to fish.
No kidding.
I would choose a different activity.
Huh. Without sounding elitist, he says that.
I tried to preface that because I honestly, if you want to catch, people go out here and catch, carp and walleye. We have some wonderful reservoirs out in Montana for game that honestly the best tactic is spin fishing gear, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not at that point. Maybe I will at some point get back into it.
What do you think it is? I'm poking you now. Like, what do you think? What don't you like? What bothers you?
I don't know.
About
it just doesn't spark any interest to me. And I don't know if it's because, Dom, I grew up fishing that way with bass in southwestern PA. And I've been fishing for as long as I can remember. And so I spent summers, with poppers and spin fishing equipment. It just isn't intriguing to me. That's all. And that's why we get into these things, right? It's like, I didn't hunt turkey when I was a big hunter back home because it just didn't interest me, right? And people love it, right? And that's okay, and that's great. I didn't love turkey hunting. I loved to archery hunt whitetails, so it's I feel like it's like that, right? The sport of fishing
I got you.
It's like the turkey hunting thing I just said. I'm not too interested in the hard tackle part, and I like to tie my own flies and everything that fly fishing is, which we've talked about on this podcast many a times. And maybe it'll change someday when my kids get into it. Maybe I'll change my approach. But that's my answer.
I like it. So Matt, you said something I think we should start with. What is fly fishing? Let's define it, put some parameters on it. Now, first of all, who cares what we think fly fishing is? But really, if we're going to have this discussion, here's my point. We're not here to tell anybody this is what fly fishing is, because like we're acknowledging, there's a big round definition of it. But really, let's try, this is subjective, of course, and that's sort of the point of this podcast. The people draw their lines in different places. But I'm curious to hear what you all think. Where are the boundaries on fly fishing? What is fly fishing? You are fly fishing if what?
For me, it's as simple as trying to imitate specific emergences with, furs and feathers and it doesn't even need to be hand tied, like personally hand tied, but personally hand tied, I say. It should be hand tied, right? No, not a ton of glue or, I don't know what they make these lures out of with molds and whatnot, but fly fishing to me is creating that lure or pattern, right, out of those types of materials to imitate a specific bug. Even if it's not, we talk about general patterns all the time, right? We're still trying to imitate something. To me, that's what fly fishing is to me, and that's what I love about it and the interest of it. That's the most important piece for me.
So it needs to be a fly.
So Matt, if you fish those flies or those tactics on a spinning rod, would you call that fly fishing because you're fishing flies?
The first hard question.
Or is it gear dependent?
So, yeah, it is the first hard question. So that's one point I'll make is that. So that's a wonderful question, right? And I would say
back them up.
You could just take a step back and think about that. Are you really going to present? I mean, you could try. Maybe it is. I don't know. You could try to do that. But I think the right tool for the job is a fly pull because it presents the flies appropriately. And those, the flex, the build, the 9 foots, the 10 foots, and it projects line out that way. Where if you put, I guess you could put a big, right, on a monofilament, right, and chuck it into the water, but you're retrieving it different, right? You're kind of retrieving it different, but I don't know if you wanted to call that fly fishing. I mean, I'll take pictures of you, Austin.
All right, so that's Matt.
I think technically it could be passed off.
All right, so Trevor. Yeah. Trevor, what's your definition?
I appreciate you went first, Grob, because I was totally chicken to go first because I knew whatever I said they would tear up.
They were going to hit me. It's okay.
That's right.
It's a good thing.
So we're here
I think that for me, part of fly fishing, as I see it, is also having a rod and line and leader or line or leader that's capable of providing the propulsion for whatever you're fishing rather than the other way around. Whereas spin fishing, you have a weight first. Whatever your lure, your bobber, whatever is the weight through which you pull that thin monofilament out of your reel. With fly fishing, I feel like you have to have a rod and line leader capable of making a fly cast, which is really using the weight and kind of stiffness of that leader and or fly line to cast your presentation. And using a reel. I mean, I think a reel is part of it, and mainly because I don't know how to distinguish from tenkara if I don't throw a reel in there.
So tenkara fishing isn't fly fishing, you don't think?
I mean, I think you could probably put it under a similar umbrella, but to me it doesn't matter at all if you call it fly fishing or not.
I just want to let everybody know
I feel like
that's
the Tenkara
Trevor.
Folks would want to.
His name's Trevor Smith. He lives in State College, PA. You're gonna make so many
and
enemies.
I'm accepting new patients.
Imagine if someone put as much time, thought, and effort into designing fishing apparel as you put into finding fish. Well, someone did. Squala Fly Fishing builds waders, jackets, shirts, and pants so well designed, dependable, and comfortable, you hardly notice them. When you're wearing Squala, you're never hot or wet or unreasonably cold, so you can focus on more important things, like fishing. They don't make gear for everybody. They make gear for us, the like-minded few, serious anglers who don't take themselves too seriously. Check them out at squalafishing.com. Then use the code Troutbitten10, that's the number 10, for 10% off your first order from Squala. Tactical Fly Fisher was founded by Fly Fishing Team USA angler Devin Olson to bring anglers cutting-edge gear and techniques from the international competitive fly fishing scene. Tactical Fly Fisher's aim is to help you improve your angling ability so you can have more fun on the water. Whether you need some flies, fly tying equipment, or a new rod or reel, they've got you covered. Head on over to tacticalflyfisher.com and use the code TBPOD10, that's TBPOD10, to get 10% off flies, fly tying supplies, or terminal tackle. Austin, what's your definition?
Wait.
The reason
Hit me with it.
I was going to say, the reason I asked you that is because I think my reasoning is almost the exact opposite. So instead of starting with the flies or the bait or the lures, my mind starts with the tackle. So in my mind, I say, okay, fly fishing, I have a fly rod, I have a fly reel, and I have a fly line. Now, pretty much whatever I attach to the end of that fly line or leader is open season.
Even if it's a live
but
mini?
now I'm fly fishing.
What if it's a Rapala?
Yeah.
You're fly fishing with live bait.
Live bait. That's where my line's drawn, I guess.
So there has to be a fly.
I had to get you back.
You got me back. Yeah, that was fair.
Right. This is good, right? This is
But
cool.
okay, so my mind is more tackle based. Your mind is more lure based. Yeah.
And I hear Trevor saying it's about the cast. It's about the fact that you're using the weight of the line and not the weight of the fly or lure
or the bait or whatever you're fishing.
But
with,
you know where we're going to get into on that.
Well, could we pause and just analyze the reality of what the effectiveness would be if you tried to spin, if you had a spin fishing setup with your fly boxes, right? What would that day look like on the water? Like, would you catch fish? Would you what would that look like? I've never tried that. It'd be kind of interesting.
You'd be pigeonholed him to what you could present.
I did specifically say having the ability. I don't think you always have to be utilizing it as such, and you could probably I think you can include that within fly fishing, but to fly fish, I think you have to have the ability with your tackle, because I'm kind of on Austin's side there. I think it's tackle based, but I also agree with Grobe that I would draw lines around some lures. I think flies, in essence, are kind of the part of that equation. But yeah,
for me, and I've thought about this a lot because I've gotten this question so many times, as you can imagine. I'm hand lining, meaning I'm not reeling in. If I'm cranking a reel, I'm not fly fishing. So I'm hand lining. I'm stripping. We know what I'm saying.
Retrieve.
For the retrieve. Thank you. I'm for the retrieve. I'm using my left hand because I fish the right way, Austin.
Yeah.
Not left-handed. Also, I'm using a fly. So I'm hand lining, not reeling, and I'm using a fly. Now, what's a fly? And that's, we're going to keep talking about that. What's a fly? I don't know. I got some things that are not flies. And again, if I put a Rapala or an inline spinner on the end, which I've done that. I've put that on a mono rig, and it fishes quite well. I would prefer to fish it on a spinning rod, and I've done both. And then Matt, you asked like what you could do with your fly box if you took that out with a spinning rod. You'd need some split shot. And I'm gonna tell you, when my kids were really young, like 5, 6, 7 years old, they had a handle for a spinning rod, just a push button, Zebco kind of thing. They could do that. And I would often put something like a green weenie with split shot, sometimes like a stonefly nymph with some split shot in front of it. Or I guess the fly could have been weighted, but you'd need more weight because it was a spinning rod, you understand?
Sure.
And then I'd put that under a bobber. So they're fishing a fly on a spinning rod under a weighted bobber, a traditional spinning rod kind of bobber. And they definitely caught fish on it. I would set them up in some of our favorite rivers, in water that was moving slower, so they didn't have to maintain that drift too much, it would set up pretty well. Joey was pretty good at it.
That's cool.
But you're very limited, and there's so many ways that you're limited there, but it's possible, is all I'm saying. What you're missing is the weight. That's what I said in the intro, and I'm with you there, Matt. Like, these flies are much better presented with more finesse, that's how I said it, on a fly rod, because our unweighted or very lightly weighted flies, you got to add a bunch of weight to fish them with a spin setup.
Well, and it'd be hard, in my opinion, to try to present and capture the proper lead. And I'm thinking of a mono rig, right?
Yeah.
But like, to really properly lead a drift with a spin would be incredibly challenging, right?
I know. Yeah. If you did it at shorter range than like what I grew up doing, I mean, if you keep it short, it's not all that much different. That's kind of the funny thing. And I've always said, like, the mono rig can be, anyway, a hybrid system. You can do some spin fishing kind of looks to it, some tactics to it. You get some of that benefit anyway. And then you can also cast it. And we talk about that all the time, casting rather than lobbing. And the way most of us, I think all of us here, like to set up a mono rig is so that it will still cast itself. And you're doing what Trevor said. You're using the line and the leader to push things out to a target. That's a big thing to me. But I don't actually, I don't use that, I suppose, as one of my requirements for what fly fishing is. For me, it's just, again, the hand lining, and then I'm using a fly. I've thought about this a lot.
It feels like you almost have to simplify it down to that in order to remove objections, because as you begin to include like more rings, concentric rings, all of a sudden you get into trouble there.
So let's move into that if we can. Like, let's go through, we've already sort of defined what each of us sort of thinks fly fishing is. We're pretty sure until we're challenged on it. Then we shuffle around a little bit. But all right, so the things that people say aren't fly fishing, like in no particular order, what do you have?
I mean, you take the most elite guys and they're going to draw the line at probably anything other than dry fly fishing. That's like the pinnacle of fly fishing to them.
True. There's still those people out there. Like I said, I think the average angler is way more open-minded. I definitely used to run into people, if you're not fishing dries, you're not fly fishing. But we got to recognize, originally fly fishing was wet flies. You know what I mean? Right. That was the original form, was wet flies, swinging wets and doing whatever with wet flies, and then dry flies came after.
Yeah,
sure.
I think. Let's even touch on the mono rig. Maybe in past years and in recent years, it's more accepted. But I don't know how many times I've heard that. You're tight line nymphing, you're just center pinning with a fly rod.
Oh, right.
Like, you might as well just use a center pin. I've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
Like, well, to me, that's fly fishing still.
Oh, I know. Mm-hmm. So Troutbitten is sort of synonymous with mono rig stuff, and we've talked about this and gone over it so many times in different ways and what we do with the mono rig and all of that. And yeah, so I hear it. I've answered that question a lot. I will say, again, as time goes on, I mean, you guys know Euro nymphing is a big deal, right? I mean, everybody loves Euro nymphing because it's so productive and you have so much control over your flies because you have contact and the whole thing. Everybody loves it. I mean, most people who get some facility with it and learn to understand it and the benefits of it really do like it. And yeah, well, it meets my requirements anyway. I'm hand lining. I'm not reeling something in to retrieve slack. And I'm using a fly. I think they're flies. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, you get that a lot. Like, well, why do people say a mono rig or a tight line or a Euro nymphing rig? Why do they say it's not fly fishing?
Because they're jealous.
It might come down to that.
At the end of the day, you take a step back. It's like that question's just bogus, because it's like,
I know.
What does it matter? Like, if I could catch that many fish on a mini, I would be fishing a mini right now.
Dude, I'm with you.
It's the best tool for the job at that particular time. So does it matter? Like, and sometimes dry flies are the best tool for the job. Sometimes nymphs are the best tool for the job. Like, that's my issue with the whole thing. I'm just there. I live to catch fish. And I just said at the beginning, I wouldn't fish given the chance. But in all reality, I'm using the best tactic possible. And I think day in and day out, it's hard to argue with cold water, wild trout. That fly fishing isn't the best tactic. So that's what we're all here for.
Right.
So as people try to ask the question, oh, that's not, fly fishing. It's like, well, what's up your butt? Right? Like,
Exactly.
like, who cares? Like, does it matter?
I think the moment you take the fly line out of the guides, some population of anglers get offended by that.
Sure.
Because it's different. It's not what they're used to. It's not how it should be, quote unquote.
Sure. First of all, I'm with you on that, Matt. And that is often when I'm doing a presentation or something and people will say, well, is that fly fishing? Oh, do you think it is? And that's my first response, Matt, is always, well, first of all, I don't care. I don't care if it is. I don't care if you call it that. I tend to call it that, but really I don't fly fish because I want to tell everybody I'm fly fishing.
Right.
And we've been through that. Like, I don't care. And I'm with you. So that is always my first response. First of all, I don't care. But second, yeah, it is fly fishing because of these reasons. That fly line point there, Austin, that's a big deal to a lot of people. If to be fly fishing, their answer, we had our answers with fly fishing, and their answer would be, hey, to be fly fishing, you're going to need a fly line.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because even within that, like there's such a diversity of fly lines from sinking
Right.
to floating. And then as you get into some of these narrower sinking lines, like, where is that crossover? Then you have OPST and you've got the monos and the maxima, and it just, there is not a defined line there that, I mean, you can certainly talk about coded line, but like even in the spin fishing world, there's braided and coded lines, and, it's really hard to draw a designation there again, except for me, where I still feel like there's some aspect to that where you're using, I don't think you always have to use it, but some of that heart behind the fly fishing was that you're taking this lighter weight presentation and using the benefits of the weight of the line to cast it. And there's obviously exceptions to that, but to me, that's part of the essence of like, you have that ability, whether you choose to use it all the time or not. When I'm fishing, a large streamer on the mono rig, I'm certainly using the weight of that waterlogged streamer when I cast.
Sure.
But that being said, like I can switch over to a dry fly or a nymph, and I can use then the weight of the line still. Even on a lightweight mono rig presentation, I'm still not lobbing, but I have the ability to. And again, it's not that it always has to happen that way. You could take a fly rod in tight quarters in a small stream, and you can dip that nymph in the water and give it a drift without a cast, right?
How about
are you
that,
fly
right?
fishing then?
Yeah.
Right. Which one is more fly fishing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a couple buddies back in Pennsylvania when I was younger, like early 20s, that had that approach on the fly line.
Just dapping. Yeah.
They were big on it, right? And they were big dry fly purists, and that's cool. Like I love dry fly fishing, but now I think back, like there's times where I'll think back to what their presentations were.
Yeah.
And it was, Trico season, right? And they were building 14, 15 foot dry fly leaders, right? And you get a 9 foot rod, and they're pretty much mono rig fishing back then, right?
Yeah.
To
Nothing
put,
out the guides.
right? But it was a double standard, right? Because if you were to use that same setup and nymph with a tight line, we're trying to keep your line off the water, it would have been looked
They
at
didn't like it,
differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, it's funny. The other day I was watching a Joan Wolf casting instructional video. It was from maybe the 80s or so. And the very introduction of the video was about the history of fly fishing. And one of the ideas is that it was first recorded by a nun who, 15th century or something. And Joan Wolf dresses up as a nun and goes down to like the local pond where she instructs. And they talk about what the first fly rod would have looked like. And it was just a stick with the line coming off of it. No fly line. I'll call it a stick and a leader. And it was closer to tenkara fishing than anything we know today. But it's also more relevant to mono rig fishing than it is any other form. It's just changed through the years, and it'll change again.
That's right. And it does keep changing, even in our lifetime, right? And just in the period of time that we've all been fishing, you see things change quickly. And again, I think it's the prevalence of information and internet and whatever that allows people to be more open-minded. They're exposed to more things, and they go try. More people are trying more things, more ways to catch fish on a fly rod. And so there's that acceptance of it. And I personally, I think that's a great thing.
You asked this question earlier, but I think over and over in this conversation sort of begs the continual question of why does it matter so much to you to define what is and what isn't fly fishing? And there are some practical reasons, right? There are some state by state regulated waters that are fly fishing only. And so I think it's interesting to look at what states kind of lay out there as what they define fly fishing as, because I think you could even read that. And I mean, Pennsylvania's regulation states that fly fishing is an angling method that uses a lightweight lure called an artificial fly to catch fish. And that's casted using a fly rod, reel, and specialized weighted line. But like, you can poke a lot of holes in that.
Can. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's not particularly enforced. And that's certainly not matching with what competition fly fishing is nowadays.
There you go.
Right?
So think about that. We talked about fly lines, talking about a sinking line, which to me, if I'm fishing streamers, let's say on a sinking line, and then I fish streamers on a mono rig, to me, it's honestly much more elegant and there's more finesse with fishing streamers on the mono rig, because I'm dealing with, weight at the end, and I have some push and punch in the leader. But as you said, I'm mostly using the weight of the fly, and it's, I think there's more elegance to the cast for me. And I'm talking about fishing within 40 feet, let's say. I got no problem fishing the sinking line. I do that from the boat. We've talked about that. But I certainly don't feel like I'm fly fishing more because I have that sinking line on there. That sinking line is, it's tungsten impregnated fly line. I don't know why that's more fly fishing than casting with that mono rig.
Right.
And likewise, you brought up competition fishing, and we talk about Euro nymphing lines. That's just a workaround because they're not allowed to fish mono rigs.
Right.
And that's the truth, and we know that. Those Euro fly lines, they cast less like a fly line than the mono rig itself.
Right.
And, because the mono rig actually has more power because the core of a Euro line is like 8 pound or something.
Sure.
Again, like, it's technically a fly line. And I suppose you could, for someone who it's really important to have that, I'm fly fishing, so I need a fly line. Well, there you go then. You could feel good about it. But, and I guess here's what we're getting to is like the absurdities, like I said in the beginning. I think there are a lot of absurdities in the way that where people draw these lines. I think we all acknowledge, like, who cares if it's fly fishing? But I think that the conversation is worth being had, like to kind of acknowledge why people will have these resistances, these lines that they draw. And many people are really stubborn about where their lines are. I find some really reasonable people who, again, will tell me, oh, I don't fish, no, I know I won't fish split shot because that's like bait fishing. Like, what? But you have tungsten beaded flies, like you're nymphing all day with tungsten beads. What's the difference?
Right.
Yeah,
For sure.
And so that's what I'd kind of like to get to as well. It's like, why? Like, try to get inside that person's mind. Why do they think, what's the difference there?
Sometimes I think they don't know. Like, I talked to an angler the other day, just met up with a parking lot out of randomness. And we were talking about flies, and the term of junk flies came up. And he said, I'll fish eggs, I'll fish squirmies, I'll fish this and that, but I won't fish a mop fly. I said, okay.
All right. There you go.
Do you fish a green weenie? He goes, oh, yeah, one of my best patterns. I said, okay. Explain that to me.
Did he?
Just something about it, or there's this mystery or this cloud. Maybe there's like a shame involved.
It's too easy.
No.
I hate that one.
Oh, right. Just fish after fish.
I think sometimes our reasons aren't well defined. It's just some sort of instinctual. Not going to do that.
We're all grasping for dignity as anglers, and you have to draw a line somewhere below which you can look upon someone else and say, see, I'm better than you.
I want to know if I show up in that same parking lot and I'm rigging up and he looks at me and I say, hey, I'm going spin fishing.
Yeah.
And I have my fly rod and my fly reel. Does that make it okay if I acknowledge I'm going spin fishing?
With your mop fly.
Right.
Yeah. And what are you doing? Sure. I'm going spin fishing.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't look like a spin reel. Well, it is. And just start playing like the opposite. Just showing up,
just own it.
Wearing my shirt. I spin fish.
That's something.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it is funny.
For over a decade, Smith Creek has provided innovative, high-quality fly fishing accessories designed to put your gear in easy reach, free up your hands, and keep our waters clean. For 2023, check out the all-new patented tippet holder. Each unit is individually machined from billet aluminum and anodized in 2 eye-catching colors. They hold up to 5 tippet spools with a spring-loaded plunger that is quick and easy to use, keeping your tippet spools right where you need them. Also, the brand new Rod Clip Plus comes with an improved 304 steel pin, plus a carabiner clip, giving you 2 ways to attach it. All Smith Creek products are built guide tough and backed by solid customer service. To learn more about Smith Creek products, visit their website at smithcreek.co. As fly anglers and tyers, we understand the value of having the right tool for the job. AvidMax.com offers over 20,000 products and the knowledge to help you find the right tool for your job, whether that be at the tying bench or on the water. Listeners of the Troutbitten podcast receive a special one-time discount code at AvidMax.com. Enter the code TB10 at checkout on full-priced items to save 10% off your order. Orders over $25 ship for free, so you can put more gas in your tank or beer in your cooler. For all things fly fishing and tying, elevate your game with AvidMax.
I've come across plenty of folks with that. You know, a green weenie's a good one. A lot of people hate that fly.
Is that right?
I've grew up with people that were like just anti-junk, right? It's not the right thing. You know, it's almost like you're offending a trout by catching it on, you know, a nasty pattern like that, or in their minds, right? That's what they would think. And I think there's a large sentiment of individuals that have that, what we're talking about, right? All this stuff that's coming that gets talked about, that people get angry about. It's that corner of the angling community. There's a big corner of folks that think I think it comes down to, it's not right to catch a trout on those particular methods and tactics. And, you know, that's elitist, right? I think it's the elitist part of the fly fishing community that all this stems from, right? So, because who's to say what we can catch trout on? Like, come on, man. Right. That's pretty bad, right? And it's cool if you just want to approach the game that way, and that's what makes you happy. I think that's fine. But to judge and then start commenting on how others choose to target their game, you know, it's different, you know, and I don't know, I have an issue with that. And Doc, I'm thinking of this. I would be curious to see what your opinions are on like crossbows.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
like when it comes to archery,
that's a great comparison,
right? This is like a correlation, right?
Yeah,
in a
it
way,
is a correlation. Yeah, and I was actually thinking about the similarities and differences between those arguments. And so crossbows were not a thing for archery. The archery season as a season is a season in which hunters get an early crack and a longer crack at deer than your rifle hunters. Rifle seasons typically it used to be 1 week. Now it's about 2 weeks, but archery season spans almost 6 weeks. And it precedes rifle season. It used to be a really kind of fringe group of people that would bow hunt. As bow technology improved, et cetera, more and more people got into it. And in an attempt to get more older hunters into archery, they began to allow the integration of crossbows, which crossbows are activated by a trigger. So you have a kind of preset arrow. You have most of them are scoped. So they have a scope. You look through the scope, you pull a trigger. There are a lot of angry arguments about whether that's really crossbow hunting or not. And Pennsylvania doesn't really have a regulation as to who can crossbow hunt. So I could go out and crossbow hunt.
Well, they used to, because they used to, and then when
it first started, it used to be you had to be either handicap and have a certification or over 65, I think it was, something like that. And so, but now it's a free for all. And the argument there is it's brought a lot more gun hunters in under the guise of archery hunting who can still pull a trigger and look through a scope. But I mean, one big difference there is deer are not like a renewable resource in the sense that like you kill a deer. With trout, we're catch and release fishing.
Right.
And so, you know, there's a little bit of difference there. And I also think I mean, honestly, if I'm honest about it, I do have a problem with people who can physically archery hunt more traditionally, hunting with a crossbow, because I think it's an easy way to kind of take advantage of the regulations. But then I hunt with a compound bow.
No, I was just going to say that.
Bow, right?
I was going to challenge
so,
you.
So Austin
right?
could challenge me on that.
Right.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. Right?
Here's what I'll comment on that, because I had to hunt with a crossbow.
There you go.
At the end, because I had a handicap in my shoulder.
Yeah.
But if you look at the data, and I haven't been there for 9 years, but there's not more bucks that get killed, and there's actually bigger bucks out there since they've allowed our crossbows, right? So it's like, did it really do any damage? And I mean, you could then make this all full circle and be like, that'll be the next thing. Trout population's on decline because of the mono rig. Right? It's like easier to catch fish.
Right.
You already have people saying
That's already
that.
starting, yeah.
That's right. That tight line stuff is just so effective that you're hurting the fish.
Right?
How many do you need to
Are you
catch?
kidding me?
Stop
That's the thing. I was just making that
Oh
up.
my,
But
yeah.
That's
It's like,
the thing.
why do you have to catch that
No,
so
it
many
is.
fish? People assume that you're just out there pounding fish after fish after fish. And it's
And
like
they
you
cite
said,
the
Matt,
mortality
show me
rate,
how you do
yeah.
that. You want to show me? You want to show me? Really? It's that effective? Let's see. Again,
Yeah.
like you can get in spots where one tactic is very effective, just bang, bang,
Sure.
bang, especially over stock trout, club environment, stuff like that. And that's especially where I think that's where the
That's
belief that like a
crazy
mop
talk.
fly is just going to catch fish all the time comes from. You know, you put it over stocked fish, they can be pretty dang gullible for a lot of things, just even for a beadhead pheasant tail.
I mean, I think in both discussions, we've seen a change in the mentality of the average participant, to the point that, like, I mean, Pennsylvania's data is definitely like more and more percent of deer that are harvested every year continue to be bow. Like every single year, more percentage of the deer killed every year are harvested by bow. And yet the bow hunters tend to be you're more invested, you're more tactical,
Sure.
you're more likely to pass up an immature buck and to take only a mature deer. And in the fishing world, like this transition from where we all grew up in small town PA with the spin fishing communities, that truthfully, like I didn't grow up with a lot of appreciation or respect for the resource or for managing the resource, because the resource was stocked, and that didn't drive us to any mind towards conservation. Now I think this move into fly fishing as an industry has really come along with some positives as far as us, you know, like better handling of fish, barbless hooks. And I would argue that, you know, while maybe we're finding more effective methods to catch fish, we're also killing less fish because more people are thinking about those conservation and ethical kind of questions.
Those things go hand in hand, no doubt.
For sure.
I think they can be used, like that sentiment is also used against certain waterways that are struggling. And I see it out here all the time. You guys saw the news, like the big hole rivers getting decimated as far as their trout population goes. And to me, it's so interesting because you can correlate angling pressure on those rivers increasing through the years with the trout population declining in that particular watershed. But there's so many other factors that I feel like people just start grasping at straws to point the finger at why
Wherever
the
they want
population's less. But if you look at stream temperatures and water flow, and you know, and people will bash me for saying this, but agriculture out here is the nastiest thing that could happen to any watershed. I mean, these rivers are sucked dry in the hardest part of the summer. So if you want to look at point fingers at people mono rig fishing, or point fingers at these guide businesses that are ramming as many trips as they can in 4 weeks, you just as well have to point the finger at the farmer up the road that's just shooting random water off into the fields for their livelihood. So everything's coming to a front now, and I think it's because of the weather cycle we're in.
Oh yeah.
We're in a weird cycle, and you can have an opinion on what that is, but we all can agree it's changing in some way, and whether that's human caused or natural caused doesn't matter. It's happening, and I think we see it and I don't want to speak for you guys because I'm not there anymore, but I see it out here in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Things are a little different, and trout are a little more stressed.
Yep.
I went on a
No, that's good.
fly fishing tangent.
Dude, it's human caused too.
I mean,
there's just no doubt about that.
I just tried to play the middle ground.
I know.
With,
But it is. It's human caused.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm not sorry. It is.
it is. Yeah, I get it.
It's not the only thing, but I just think we all got to grow up and acknowledge it. That's what it is. And try to do something about it.
Yeah.
But what happens out here, it's nasty. Everybody points the finger, right?
Yeah.
And it goes around. I mean, there's so many guide trips, and
Yeah,
and
right.
there's
No
so
one's
many-
immune to it.
Yeah, and I pointed out it's a serious thing. The water rights out here date back to the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? There's not as much water as there was in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't
But there's
change.
more demand for it. Yeah.
Sure, and there's less snow melt, and there's less everything, but they can still chuck out as much water as they want, and it's not regulated. It's decimating Montana's fishing,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't that's don't touch the farmers, right? I mean, it can be a touchy subject.
Kind of get that priority, don't they?
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough. People will be like, oh, it's development. And look,
Yeah.
these watersheds can, I'm not saying it's good for the watershed. I'm just saying they can survive and they can be wonderful fisheries with development. I'm not saying it's perfect or it's good, and the native trout probably don't like it, but let's not just point the finger at development.
Yeah. Those are big watersheds out there too, big valleys.
Yeah.
And when they get really low, you got a lot of dry rocks, and rocks just
Sure.
grab the heat, and that's a tough time, like you said, for
It is.
agriculture to be, pulling so much water out of the system unnaturally, really.
Sure.
I'm going to challenge you though. I'll challenge you on this. So we're talking about what's fly fishing and what is not fly fishing, and we all acknowledge that, like, we're not here to tell anybody what isn't fly fishing, and like, who cares, right? Who cares? And so, a few things before we get out of here. What about pegged beads? What about that? Is that fly fishing? You know what I'm talking about? You peg a bead and then you get the hook behind it.
I had somebody do it for me once, and I was like blown away by the kind of the complexity to set it up. Well, yeah, the effectiveness too. But you'll like this, Dom. I did a side by side. The guy, I think I had I'm drawing a blank on the egg you use, and you can be
like a plastic egg.
No. What
Nuke
is your
egg.
nuke egg? So I was fishing a nuke egg in the front of the boat, and the guy was peg egging in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
I caught just as many fish as he did
Oh,
that
did you?
day.
Good. I thought you were going to say the opposite.
No, but regardless, is it fly fishing? Does it really give you that much of an advantage? I don't know. I guess I don't have a problem with it. Do you?
I don't have a problem with it, but it doesn't fall within my definition of fly fishing.
Sure.
It's not a fly. It's not a fly.
Perfectly said. I mean, that it is.
That's all.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's not a fly, but hey, if it's a good tactic, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I had another friend, speaking of egg fishing, ethically, he wouldn't fish trout egg imitations because they were trout babies.
Oh my gosh.
But
That
he,
man has a poor grasp on nature.
But he will
are my pets.
he will fish streamers though.
Oh, yeah. Because
So I used to poke him about that. Like, you
Right.
could fish a small streamer, you could fish a really small version of that. In egg
Austin,
form.
that's exactly the kind of absurdity we're here to acknowledge. There you go. That's
But,
exactly
that
that's a
guy's not
good one.
wrong for deciding to fish that way. It's like, it's just
No.
a fun quirk about him, and that's
It
what he
is.
does.
Well, but it goes to show you how uneducated they are. That's just
Fair
an
enough.
uneducated answer.
But but like Austin said, it's just a fun quirk too. It's like, I think really we're not trying to get too crazy about this. It's like what
Yeah.
Austin said right there, I think puts this in a nutshell for me. None of us here are trying to get, elitist about what we think fly fishing is. And we're here to acknowledge some strange things and about strange places where people draw the lines. And like your buddy there, that makes no sense. It's like, won't
Does
fish
to
eggs,
him.
but he'll fish the streamers that look like actual trout babies. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not elitist. We're just more reasonable than anybody else.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're just,
You guys realize there was a time, and there's still people who will tell you that streamer fishing isn't fly fishing.
Mm.
I mean, streamer fishing is all kinds of accepted now, just like
That's
nymphs
wild.
Yeah.
in many ways. But yeah,
The funny thing about that is
Yeah.
for as long as I can remember, and I'm not that old, right? And
Yeah.
I fished for a long time, but a woolly bugger, right? It's like the
Yeah.
first fly you learn to tie, and it's like the standard. Back in the day, it was a hare's ear, a woolly bugger, and like a girdle bug. And that was, it was you stripped it in, right? It was a streamer, right? Am I wrong for saying that, Dom? But like when I grew up, a woolly bugger was a streamer.
Yeah. They'll tell you can fish it anyway. You can't fish it a wrong way. A good way to fish it is to strip it like a streamer. Yeah. What about a Sweet Home Alabama fly? You guys know about that?
What is this? What is this?
You should Google it right now. Everybody Google it. Sweet Home Alabama fly. While you're Googling it, I'll tell everybody. It's like it's a bunch of flies kind of put together on like a wire harness. This is pretty standard in like the spin fishing world. You're looking like a school of minnows.
Fish.
Right. It's like a school of fish.
That is awesome.
It is kind of cool. So instead of being a school of, I don't know, small little lures or blades or something, like spinners, it's a small school of flies, right? But they're mounted on, does that look like a wire harness to you guys, right? And there's probably 6, I could put as many as you want, like half dozen or more there on this Sweet Home Alabama fly.
I feel like I could imitate that. I'm good.
Is that fly fishing?
Just tie how I do it. It would be.
Which pack would that one go in, Matt?
I'm thinking of a special pack to transport that.
I'm like, okay, I can put dumbbell eyes there, then I can wrap a bunch of like 0x tippet and splay it out, and then just do some dyed marabou, right? And then like, I'm in, man.
I mean, I'll fish
B10 stinger on the back.
Tandem.
I'm good.
Fishing a little school.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the lines are getting dirty, like Trevor said. We'll fish 2 streamers in tandem. Yeah. I will say that's not fly fishing.
Dom, do all those have hooks?
I'll just stand up and say it. That's not fly fishing.
Did all those have hooks?
Yeah, they all have hooks.
Oh, that's I mean, I was just thinking you could put some, I could do some marabou and have some like weird spider action under the water. But
maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they all had hooks.
It looks like only the one in the back on this example.
Yeah, you could find it. Probably tie it different ways. But it's not a fly; it's a series of fly. I think
it's a fly cluster, Dom.
It's a fly cluster. It's a school.
Is it any different than a midge cluster?
Yeah.
There you go. Like, why am I being all elitist about it?
Come on, bud.
Come on.
I never had seen that. So that's new to me.
Right. What about what I brought up in the intro? Like, people will fish molded heads, for example, like a Flyman Fishing Company fish skull. You're familiar? Like, what's on the headbanger, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a molded head. Now, Trevor said earlier about our PA Fish Commission says you can't use molded heads. Molded, it can't be, it doesn't say heads. It can't be molded. Right, Trevor? Is that on that definition? Yeah. There can't be anything
like an artificial,
molded.
A lightweight artificial.
It
fly.
Says about how you can't have molded facsimiles of trout or of fish, of bait fish. Molded facsimiles, I think, is the wording. And yet, there you have your headbanger sculpin helmet. It's molded. And everybody fishes those. But then I definitely run into people who will not fish like big ball jigs. I'm saying big, like whatever, even like 16th of an ounce or even 1/8 ounce ball jigs. Well, I don't know where you draw the line. No, that's not a fly. Well, wait a second. What about the sculpin helmet? What's the difference? Is there a difference?
That's who regulates that stuff. Right?
The
where the biggest. You guys may or may not know, but I think one of the harshest fly fishing destinations I've ever been to is Yellowstone National Park. If you actually look at their regs,
for the regs,
no lead. I mean, and so you're not even supposed to have ribbed anything or lead built into
lead
the fly.
Wraps. Yep,
and it says no organic or inorganic baits. I mean, it goes into all this stuff: one rod, feathers, and fly tying materials. So you're not even supposed to use rubber worms at all.
No kidding.
And I guarantee you, a lot of people are not abiding by that in Yellowstone.
Do they have
National
leader
Park.
length restrictions too, or no?
No, it's just like lures one hook with a single double or treble points on a common shank. It's just, I'm looking at it now. Except for feathers and other typical fly tying materials, the hook must be bare. No organic or inorganic baits.
Okay.
And then it goes on Organic baits include fish or fish parts, minnows, salmon eggs, worms, insects, or foodstuffs such as bread or corn. Inorganic baits include rubber worms and plastic twister tails. Scented attractants are illegal. Putting any substance in the water for the purpose of attracting fish, chumming, is illegal. So there's some cool specifics, trying to make the, because some of those waters are fly fishing only.
Sure.
So
it
maybe
sounds
they
like
could
they
help
definitely
us in the in
right.
the fight.
They went to great lengths to try and define it. There you go.
Anyway.
Whether it's after a fishing trip or at a backyard fire, you can bet the Troutbitten crew has a case of New Trail Broken Heels along with us. It's honestly our favorite beer. This hazy IPA is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is a keeper. New Trail beer is proudly brewed in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and delivered cold to your favorite craft beer retailer every week. At New Trail, it's not about being the best angler. It's about getting out there. So enjoy nature's moments and reward yourself for a day well fished with New Trail Broken Heels. It's Troutbitten's favorite beer. I got one more for you. When I wrote that article about the Troutbitten Superfly, right? I think the article was the next Superfly or something like that. I had 4 or 5 people get in touch with me and say, I got your next Superfly. And some of them wanted to trade the Troutbitten Superfly for theirs. I was like, I'm not interested. No, thanks. And I said, no, it's all right. And I had one guy get kind of mad at me because I wouldn't give him the Troutbitten Superfly because he was going to give me his Superfly. So he eventually gave me his Superfly anyway. It's a rubber worm. It's a pink rubber worm with like a paddle tail. You guys remember this? I showed you the paddle tail.
Yeah, I still have one.
Right, there you go. And that's what, about 2 inches maybe, Austin?
And probably bigger, 2.5, 3.
2.5 to 3 inches. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. More like 3 inches. And
It's
again,
like a big scud hook or something.
Well, it's on a jig hook, and it has a,
it's a jig,
ball
okay.
jig, and you can vary the weight of that ball jig. And he showed me the picture of it, and we were Instagram messaging back and forth. And my response, I was like, "You aren't going to like this, but that's not a fly." That's what I told him, because that's not a fly. He said, "I can't believe you would say that. You're like really open-minded about all this, all the other stuff." I said, "Yeah, I'm open-minded, but that's not a fly. It isn't. There's nothing that makes that a fly to me. I'm telling you what I think about it, and that doesn't mean I'm right, but that's not a fly. There's nothing that is a fly about that." And Matt, when you started out saying like what to you matters, you were saying like, yeah, you need like some feathers and something that simulates, one of these bugs or something that the trout eat. And I know they eat pink worms too.
Pink worms.
I'm like, that's not a fly, right? Is that a fly or not? What that?
Hey, it is when you put some pink UV dubbing on it.
I was gonna say, what if you put a dubbing collar on it?
No, what if you dunk it in salt?
I feel better about myself.
I mean,
No, I don't.
I was waiting for that guy to get back to me and say, what if I like put some hackle on it? Would that make it a fly? And then I was gonna have to scratch my head and go, I'm not sure. Maybe it does.
Hey, listening to you talk brings up a thought, because I have people that won't fish the squirmy wormy, but they'll fish chenille worms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
same
right.
thing.
Like an old school San Juan worm, and I'm like, man, that's really drawing the line there.
I think the FIPS rules just said not too long ago that you can't have anything that's extruded. Like if you think about the way that the squirmy is built, or how that material is made, it's extruded, right? It's like pushed out through, like how you make homemade noodles.
That's exactly what it is.
Extruded.
They actually use a noodle machine.
That's what they do. And that's how squirmies are made.
Yeah.
Yep. A little bit of food coloring, and there you go. Anyway, I don't think you're allowed to have that anymore. I might be wrong. I don't really follow the FIPS rules all that much, but that's the difference, Matt. Like, you can't have that anymore. And I will say, like, come on, Dom, what's the difference between a squirmy versus this guy's paddle tail pink worm? One's bigger. His was a lot bigger than a regular squirmy, but I'm such a hypocrite,
Hey, we all are. I mean, everybody
exactly.
can. It's a weird conversation.
That's what it comes down to.
But we're trying to get into it, right? You
There
got to
you
give
go.
us credit.
What else, guys?
I don't know. I think we just it's a tough conversation to have. I think people are going to pick their their sides. They're gonna stick to it. But all we were trying to do tonight was explain a little bit about where our heads are at with it, and then at the end of the day, communicate that, we don't care, right? At the end of the day, we just like fishing. It's all fishing to us. And I think we've combined different tactics from different methods. And as long as it catches fish, we're open to it. And that's what it is to us, right? Fishing should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll never cover every facet, and we'll get opinions and ideas. Well, you didn't think of this, you didn't consider that. But at the end of the day, too, as long as you're fishing, having fun, and fishing ethically, and treating the fish well and taking care of your resource well, go have fun.
Right.
Don't make a Sweet Home Alabama fly with eggs on it with hooks and go fishing in October.
Yeah,
Under a bobber.
Under a bobber.
With a mono rig.
Hey, what's that clear gravel up there?
On
I'm gonna
a
go
10
hit
car.
that spot.
Right.
Fishing over reds.
yeah.
I do think that's it. Like, we're not here to tell anybody what's fly fishing and what isn't, but I think it's a good conversation, because I think this conversation will help a few people realize, like, that didn't make any sense. I shouldn't be so stubborn about this or that. Or my buddy fishes that way. I need to stop telling him he's not fly fishing. You guys remember that comment we got not too long ago?
Yeah.
Or the question, hey, I'm fishing with my buddy, and when I do this, he says I'm not fly fishing. We were always like, screw your buddy. Like, you're fly fishing.
Right.
Who cares what he thinks?
Right.
That's what it comes down to. But there are some lines. Draw your lines somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to stand for something.
For goodness sake, draw your line somewhere.
No rubber worms on a jig hook.
I'll see you guys out on the river with my mini setup with my fly line.
That's right. Who wants to read us out? Who's got it?
I'm on it.
The reader. Trevor Smith.
The reader.
The professor.
He's so smart.
Remember, the Troutbitten Project is a free resource for all anglers. The Troutbitten website hosts over 1,000 articles, with endless stories, commentaries, tactics, tips, and more. Find what you like through the top menu and through the search page. Navigate by way of the categories and tags, too. Be sure to find the Troutbitten YouTube channel, currently featuring the Troutbitten Tips series, in collaboration with Wilds Media. These are short, useful, and unique tips for your fly fishing life. Thank you for listening to the Troutbitten podcast. Please give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and leave a comment, because that really helps. Until next time, friends, fish hard, enjoy the day, and find your life on the water.
Live bait.
I'm not sure.
So that's a wonderful question, right?
You can catch something, kid.
See, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
I caught just as many fish as he did that day.
Oh, did you? Good.